If you can show the dispossessed and the diseased and the hungry.
I was a junior high school student in South Africa when Robert Kennedy visited, and the visit absolutely amazed me, particularly the visit to Soweto. White South Africans, if they went into Soweto, they went in secretly. He went in openly. He didn't ask for permission. He just went without any security. And the way in which he was received, he and Ethel and the rest of the party, was just kind of amazing. I'd never seen that. Black South Africans knew that their leaders were in jail. Mandela was on Robben Island. Luthuli was in exile. They knew that their leaders were very strongly fighting against apartheid. But this was the first time that anyone important in the outside world came to South Africa and was on their side.
South Africa was completely controlled under the apartheid regime they controlled the media. They made all the propaganda. So they saw this as a moment of a crack that other people would see their struggle.
Because prior to that, you had the feeling that either no one knew what was going on or they weren't going to do anything about it. And here's someone really important, former president's brother, senator from New York, the Kennedys, and all the mythology around the Kennedys. It was enormously significant to black South Africans that someone like Robert Kennedy came there and said, I'm on your side, and then the hope that maybe something would begin to happen.
Well, what's important about the story of Chief Luthuli is that, number one, he was the president of the ANC. During the time of Kennedy's visit, he was under house arrest, and he was banished. He was not only under house arrest where he was living and working, they sent him to a rural area where he could have no influence and no contact. For Kennedy to visit him and then to go back and quote, because he was protected as a senator from the United States, a possible upcoming president, he could quote from Luthuli. He could say, I just met with Luthuli. He embraces the struggle. Those words would really resonate.
Luthuli was just a wonderful man, and he was banned and sent to this rural area where he was living. Essentially couldn't be quoted, a photograph couldn't appear of him. It's sort of like the living dead, really. And Robert Kennedy made a point of going to visit him. It was unknown whether to be able to pull it off. The last minute, he and Ethel Kennedy, you'll see them in the film, just jumped in a helicopter. They found some guy who rented a helicopter, and they flew to Groutville. And he spoke about Luthuli as one of the inspiring men, of the time.
Each time a man stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance.
It's the speech that's the second most quoted speech in the 20th century. It's pretty amazing that most people quote from that speech of Robert Kennedy and don't know that he gave it in South Africa.
And of course, it's also on Robert Kennedy's gravesite, the Ripple quote. And it's a particularly, I think, inspiring quote, because it essentially says, each person, if they just do a little bit, those little pieces will come together.
It was a small thing. No one wants to enlarge what Kennedy could do at that particular historic moment. But just the act of speaking against white supremacy, speaking for justice, just the little act throws out that pebble into an ocean of injustice. But it can create a current, and that current is something we all need to find our own strength to fight.